Is it worth it? Well, you clicked on the right videos, my friend. For the last week or so, I've been daily driving the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip, and there is a lot to like. However, at $1,400, it really begs the question, shouldn't you just spend that money on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra? Or make better financial decisions? I honestly want to know if you were able to fit the phone in your pocket. That's it, that's the tweet. Well, I mean, we can find out. Yes, it actually fits in a pocket fine. Does it seem too big, or has it reached the point of almost being a tablet? I am still kind of on the fence on this one. So this is a 6.9-inch smartphone. It's big, it is very big, and as someone who's typically not a big fan of large smartphones, it's a little bit annoying, right? So especially last night as I was sort of scrolling through Twitter, I was on the phone for like 30 minutes, and at that point, I used the little pinky grip, and it was just starting to feel sort of heavy and annoying. Does it come with a clear case in the box like the Asian markets do? No. More specifically, we get the phone itself, the pretty beefy power adapter, a USB-C to C cable, and a pair of USB-C AKG headphones. Does it come with a screen protector out of the box? Yes, it does, and I proceeded to immediately take it off because, look, I'm gonna be real, I started peeling it off because I thought it was the protective plastic. Is 120 Hz really worth getting over a normal 60 Hz phone? Yes. So last year, of course, OnePlus brought out 90 Hz displays. However, this year we have a full 120 Hz on the S20 and the S20 Plus and the Ultra. So I actually went much more in depth on this on my podcast, The Test Drivers, which you can shamelessly download at the link in the description if you haven't already subscribed. Sorry, what was that? Right out of the box, you can see it's set to not only 1080p resolution, but standard 60 Hz smoothness. Now the thing is, well, I mean, sure, for some people that might be all right. But when you're paying this much money for a phone, I mean, you gotta turn that on, right? Am I uncomfortably close right now? Look, Ken's been gone, he's in Japan right now. I have to shoot this video by myself. So things are gonna get weird, I apologize. The main downside is that you have to run it at 1080p to get that full 120 Hz experience. If you want the full resolution of this phone, which would be nice, especially considering how huge it is, you have to run it at 60 Hz. So your trade-off is literally full resolution with 60 frames per second, or lower resolution with 120. Geekbench or Antutu benchmark. So this is the first time that I've used a Snapdragon 865 powered device, which, as you may expect, is the most powerful Android phone yet, easily outperforming the last year's model of like the Galaxy S10 as well as the OnePlus. However, while it is more powerful than most Android phones, if you compare it to something like the iPhone 11, it is close, but it still falls behind specifically in single thread. How fast does the phone unlock with the in-display fingerprint sensor? It's fine. So as far as I can tell, talking with Samsung, it is very similar, if not identical, to the sensor that we had on the S10 last year, which means that it is fine. I will say, after spending this last week with also the Z Flip, I much prefer how fast the side-mounted actual physical fingerprint sensor is on this phone as opposed to the S20 Ultra. It's certainly not bad, but it's not really a major improvement over last year. 5G speeds? So I am using the S20 Ultra on T-Mobile's 5G network. Now I do have 5G here at the office. However, what I have is their sub-6 5G, which means that it is similar to 4G LTE, except it's faster, but it's not quite as crazy as some of those millimeter wave speeds that you might see on some other networks, and that technically the S20 Ultra does support if I was on, say, like Verizon or something. But, well, let's just speed test it and see. So I have full bars of 5G right now, and I am getting 50 megs down. This is while a step forward for LTE, and it's better in generally speaking than most LTE. It is not as crazy as some of those millimeter wave speeds that you've probably seen in like Marquez's video. How's the battery life been? Good. So of course, the Ultra, one of its headlining features among many ridiculous specs, is a huge 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Now, to be fair, I have not spent enough time to really get to grips with this, especially because I haven't been on any kind of millimeter wave 5G. It's been kind of fairly standard use, but I've easily been able to get through a full day of use with this guy, which really shouldn't be a surprise even with that 120 Hz display on. Is 100 times space zoom just a gimmick? Well, no. So this does have a 5 times optical zoom, not 10 times optical zoom like I was led to believe before. So if we jump into the camera, you can see that if I switch over to the ultra wide, that's night mode, I don't want that. If I switch to the ultra wide, you can see that obviously very wide field of view, Switch to the standard, it looks nice, but as soon as I go to zoom in, I'm at 5 times. And that's actually a pretty significant zoom. You can really see a lot closer. However, once you start getting beyond that, it gets to be a little sketchy. So if I pull up the feature again, so we can go to 10 times, which say I want to look at the camera on the ceiling. Well, that looks fine, and it's certainly better than something like the iPhone. It actually is pretty impressive what you can get out of even just 5 times zoom. So if I zoom into something like 30 times, it doesn't look super impressive until you jump out to the wide angle and see just how far away you are. It is not a perfect setup, and I think the fact that they put that 100 times space zoom on the back is a little bit disingenuous, but I think there's no doubt that this is one of the best zoom cameras on any phone that you can get. Austin, they hyped the cameras on this thing, and I mean they hyped the cameras. So my question, how does this $1,000 plus phone compare with the point-and-shoot camera like an RX 100 or G5X? It is good, but it is not as good. So I took a couple of sample stills, I'll show you guys right now. So if you zoom in on a shot like this on the RX 100, you'll see that it's really nice. You know, you got a little bit of depth of field in the background, plenty of detail. Now if we switch over to the Samsung, you can see that it does have that larger sensor. And with 108 megapixels and that huge sensor, it actually does give us a little bit of depth of field. But especially when you look at like the beard, there's a lot of extra detail, which I'm not really a huge fan of. And if I switch over to the iPhone, you'll see that it is just not quite as nice. So I will say that the iPhone does not sharpen things quite as much, and this is only a single sample. But on the other side, what we're looking at here is something which white balance doesn't look quite as nice, and the color looks to be fine, but not particularly impressive. So, to sort of sum it up, if you look at the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra side by side with an RX 100, it gets reasonably close, but it is not as good, and there's still probably a good couple year gap between them. Especially considering that the RX 100 has a much nicer lens. There's a lot of stuff you can do in software to make color and dynamic range look better, but at the end of the day, so much of it does come down to that glass that you put in front of the sensor, and that's just simply not something that you can really push smartphones that far on yet. Unless you want to have like a lens like this pop out the back of your phone. Is the 8K video as good as the RED camera? So for context, right now I am recording on an 8K RED camera, although to be fair, the lens is much nicer than on the S20, and the color has been custom profiled for this location. However, this is what it looks like when we are recording 8K video on the Galaxy S20 Ultra. Now we are recording at that same 24 frames per second. However, something I've really noticed is that when you go from 4K to 8K, it gets really noisy. So this is not exactly a dark environment, but it is not a super high key, really sort of brightly lit one. And as you can see on the RED, it handles it no problem. There's essentially no noise. And again, we sort of custom built this entire set for the RED, but with the exact same settings, you can see that while the 8K video isn't terrible, it is certainly nowhere near as good as a true 8K camera. How about a low light photo comparison? So I had some time to take the S20 Ultra, the Galaxy Z Flip, and the iPhone 11 Pro out for a little photo test last night, and generally speaking, the results are good. Now I will say that I'm not a huge fan of the way the Samsung night mode performs. So some shots actually I will say didn't even want to kick into night mode, and some of them looked quite nice. But when you quick into that night mode, unlike something on the Pixel, which I feel like generally speaking does a very good job of kind of balancing a long exposure with multiple and kind of merging it well, the S20 Ultra would like sit there and go, oh, I need a 10-second exposure. And you can see a shot like this, it just doesn't look as good as something like the iPhone, which only needed a couple of seconds to do it. And a lot of that is because when you have such a long exposure, you gotta hold the phone exactly straight for like 10 seconds. It's difficult to get any kind of real detail there. Now, mind you, in some other shots, it is significantly better than something like the iPhone or the Z Flip. But for the most part, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think that the iPhone and Pixel may still have a slight edge in night mode, but we'll see when I spend a little bit more time with it. Generally speaking though, it's good, just not amazing. Is the selfie camera better than the normal and plus versions? So sadly, I only have the S20 Ultra in right now. I will be getting my hands on a standard S20 probably in the next couple weeks or so, but I can compare it to, again, the iPhone as well as the Z Flip, so let's see. When you put them all side by side, I think it's pretty clear to say that the S20 Ultra wins. Now, while I do slightly prefer the look of the iPhone as far as color goes, but the extra detail on the S20 Ultra really is pretty apparent. Although I'm not entirely sure how many people want that much detail in their selfies. Maybe, isn't that what beauty mode's for, is to smooth things out? Can the S20 Ultra record 60 FPS with all three cameras like the iPhone 11 Pro? No. So if I jump into the camera app, when I'm on 4K 60, it simply does not give you an option to zoom in or out. Now if I jump into the settings and switch it to say 4K 30, you'll see that now I have those options. So while I'm recording, I can easily sort of jump in, jump out, and it will work. However, at 4K 60, you are stuck with just the standard angle camera. How significant of a difference does it have coming from the S10 or the S10 Plus? Like, does this really qualify for being ultra? So that's really the main question for this video, right? With a $1,400 price tag, is the Galaxy S20 Ultra really worthy of that name? I would say yes. So while it is very expensive, it is very large, but this is a ridiculously spec-hungry monster, right? I mean, you've got a 108 megapixel camera, 5 times optical zoom with 100 times space zoom, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, fastest Snapdragon 865 processor you can get, you've got a 120 hertz display. I mean, yes, this really is about the most ridiculous overkill phone I can think of, and you have to pay the price for that. So coming around to, I guess, the beginning of this video, is the Galaxy S20 Ultra worth it? It depends. Are you a person who just wants a good, solid smartphone with decent cameras? The standard S20 or iPhone or OnePlus, there's a lot of other options which will be just fine, right? This is not for you. The S20 Ultra is only worth it if you are one of those nerds who really wants the absolute max. And I don't say nerd in a bad way, right? If you really want that ultimate experience, the Ultra does deliver something that you just can't get on any other phone right now. The cameras are quite good, the battery is massive, there's just a lot to like with this phone. So if that's what you're interested in, if you really want the ultimate, the max, the most, I mean, sure, I might be perfectly happy with the Z Flip and just sort of the form factor of it, but at the same price, you are getting much less specs, you're getting much less of pretty much everything just besides the novelty, whereas the S20 Ultra really does deliver ridiculous overkill performance. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about the S20 Ultra? And if you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to subscribe to the channel because, well, I love you, and I hope that you love me back. And we all know the only reason to show love in this world is by ringing the notification bell.